Hi, I'm Leslie Duthie, and I'm a retired ecological horticulturalist. I worked in a wildflower sanctuary for most of my career, but now I'm a volunteer here at New England Botanic Garden, and my job is to take care of the heritage apple collection. This is a really unique orchard. It was actually begun by a man named Stearns Slothorpe Davenport, and Mr. Davenport was hired by the USDA during the Works program to go through Massachusetts and remove rogue trees. It was a time when apple orchards were beginning to be established, and they didn't want the rogue trees to be harboring disease or insects. So they would cut down these random lone wolf apple trees, and they provided firewood to many families from those trees so that they were using all of the resources. But during this project, Mr. Davenport realized that he might be cutting down the last one of a particular variety. So he began collecting scion wood from each of the trees that he cut down, and he would bring it home and graft it and plant those trees on his own property. So Mr. Davenport actually made a collection of, I believe he had up to 70 trees that was at his home. Mr. Davenport also happened to be a board member of the Worcester Horticultural Society. So he donated his orchard to the Horticultural Society. And the Horticultural Society watched after that apple orchard for a number of years while it was still at his property in Grafton. The society did not have a property at that time to put the apples on, but after Mr. Davenport's death, they realized that they could not maintain an orchard on someone else's property. So again, they took scion wood from each of the trees, grafted it to new rootstock, and they worked with Old Sturbridge Village in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, to preserve the varieties that Mr. Davenport had collected. Sturbridge Village held on to the collection for many years, and in 1986, the Horticultural Society bought this beautiful property here in Boylston. The first thing that they did was take scions from the Sturbridge Village trees and bring them here to Boylston and plant the orchard. So the orchard was one of the first things that was brought to this new property. So as our climate changed, the trees began to develop a disease known as fire blight. It's a bacterial disease, and it's spread through the flowers of members of the Rosaceae. So apples and many of our fruits are members of that rose family. And it's a common disease. It's found throughout New England. You can't get away from it. But the trees that we had here and that were planted here in the early 90s and late 80s began to succumb to this disease. The horticulturalists at the time tried to treat the disease, but there's not really a good way to cure the plants of the fire blight. So Mark Richardson came here as the new horticultural director and was aware that the apple orchard was failing. One of the key projects that he wanted to work on was restoring this apple orchard. So he reached out to John Bunker at Fedco, and they talked about the ability to take scion wood from our trees so that we could again preserve the orchard. So this here now is our fourth iteration of Mr. Davenport's apple orchard. And preserving these trees is critical because many of them don't exist anywhere else. They're very special trees. In doing the genome project, or in doing the DNA testing on our apples, has been a really important part of this orchard. Knowing what each apple actually is important for us and for the heritage of the apple trees. We collect a very small brand new leaf from each tree. It has to be dried down. It's then preserved in a tube that has crystals in it that absorb water, and then the tubes are sent to Washington State University. Dr. Cameron Peace and his lab do the DNA testing of each of our apples, and we have discovered that some of our apples are not only unknown, but are unique. So they may be the only apple of its type that's in the apple registry. So that's been a very important contribution this garden has made to advancing apple genome study. So we'll do more studies on our trees to determine what their parentage is so that we know how these varieties came about, what their parents might have looked like. Certainly that gives us a lot more insight into our orchard and where our trees came from. The advent of DNA testing has really given us a tremendous insight into the genetics of our apple trees, as well as many other things. So our apples are really benefiting from the advances in science.